It's time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed it does on a Monday, and great to have you with us all across America and Canada. Over 200 affiliates nationwide. YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're watching the show, we appreciate it. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We'll get to the big dumper. Cal Raleigh hit his 31st home run this weekend. There is some fun stuff to get to from golf, odds and ends, all of that great stuff. But we started out in the NBA and the NBA Finals, and for that we bring in our friend Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com to lead things off on the program. All right, Thunder win the NBA championship last night with a 103-91 win in Game 7, Kurt. And I'm not going to lie, I will forever, well, I won't, all right, I won't go that far. I will be haunted by the idea that this thing may have turned out different if Tyrese Haliburton is playing. And I don't think that's being unfair. I don't think that's talking down on what the Thunder accomplished this year, but you got the sense watching that game in the first quarter that if this thing goes the distance, all four quarters, and Tyrese Haliburton's on the floor, we might be talking about a different outcome here. We're never going to know because he pops his Achilles, which we talked about last week on the show as being one of the possible outcomes of him playing with this calf strain. And the moment it happened, we all knew exactly what went down. And you know, while they hung around and kept it close, even late stages of the third quarter, you knew eventually Oklahoma City was going to pull away.
Yeah, as great as the Pacers are, and again, I do not want to take anything away from them and how fun they've been, they can't sustain that level without Haliburton. And it's frustrating because Haliburton had 9 of their first 16 points, hit those. They were playing off him. They were playing some not drop, but like a deeper pickup on him. And he's like, all right, I'll shoot from deep. Hit those three out of 4 3-pointers, had 9 quick points, and he wasn't afraid of the moment. And you're like, uh-oh, this could get really interesting. This is going to be one of those games. And when he went down, like you said, you just kind of knew what was going to happen eventually, that they just, as great as TJ McConnell was, as much as everybody else played hard, they can't sustain that without Haliburton's offense. And that's an issue for next season in an East that's even more wide open now.
It just breaks your heart, though. It really does. And we'll get to that in a moment. But let's talk about and celebrate here for a moment what this Thunder team has accomplished in this rebuilding process, 6 total years if you really want to look at it, but really over the last few years and being able to accomplish what they have here. And I know a lot of people, I get tired of this narrative that people try to create. We did this with the Nuggets a couple of years ago when they won their title. Oh, they could be on their way to winning multiple titles. This could be a dynastic thing. And then we go and do it with this. And we do this all the time. And I just think it's kind of lazy and it's prisoner to the moment sort of stuff when we try to sit here and say, well, now this is going to be the Thunder run. It's hard to do it in this league year after year, and you find out why when you watch the Nuggets and the Celtics the last couple of years.
It is hard, and I'm going to grant you that. Look, there's 7 different champions for the last 7 years. That's not an accident. Winning is hard in the NBA, but I will say this. The thing that they have that even those other teams didn't is they are so young. In fact, you know how young they are? They did not know in the locker room how to open a bottle of champagne. They literally had to ask Alex Caruso, and he had to show them like a YouTube tutorial how to open a champagne bottle so they could spray each other in the locker room. It was hysterical.
That is true, but like all things, and I know everybody says this is an unselfish group, they do everything the right way. Eventually, as time marches on, and as success, sort of steamrolls and snowballs, things start to change. And one guy, starts to get an ego, and then it snowballs into 2 or 3 guys. We've all seen how these things all take place. What makes you think this Thunder team could be different in that regard?
I'm not sure that it can if you're talking 4 or 5 years down the road, I don't know.
Even 2 or 3 years.
Next year, I think they've run it back pretty much as is, and they are a huge threat. The challenge they've got is, like we've discussed all year, and it will be no different next year. The West is stacked, and now Kevin Durant's in Houston, and we can talk about that later. But it's a deep conference. You're going to have a lot of breaks go your way on top of being very good. But the second apron is going to catch up with them. Hartenstein and Caruso probably have one more season with this team before they become free agents, become too pricey. You're going to have to max out Holmgren and J-Dub, Jalen Williams. And suddenly it's very expensive to put a team around them. It's not going to be easy to keep this team at this level, even with the 8. Look, they're set up as good as you can be. They've got, a zillion draft picks and all that. It's going to be hard to continue to win at that level. But I think next season, I think they realize the opportunity they've got. It's just hard.
I'll tell you the other thing that sort of comes to mind for me. They won this championship in 7 games. And granted, I think they should have been able to win it in 5 or 6. If you look at the talent disparity between the two sides, I thought they were markedly better than this Pacers team. And I think at times just the intensity of the Pacers is what stole them a game, potentially 2 in this series. But the other thing to look at in this series that blows my mind, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wins, NBA Finals MVP. He didn't even play that well. I mean, if you look at the shooting percentage, I don't think he played, to the level that we saw him play throughout much of this postseason. And granted, a lot of that was because of the way the Pacers defended him. They were dogged in their defense. They ran him ragged on both ends of the floor. But he didn't even play his best basketball, I don't think, Kurt.
I thought the second half of this game, and a little bit in the first half, but definitely in the second half, he really found his rhythm as the orchestrator of the offense. I mean, he scored 29 points on the night. Not, like you said, not horribly efficient, but he had 12 dimes. He was finding guys. He started
8 of 27 shooting, though.
Yeah, look, he took a lot of shots, but again, I think that's the defense. And game 7s are rock fights sometimes. Like, they do get a little, bet the under in every game 7 for the rest of your life. They're always going to be under, right? So, that part doesn't bother me. At the end of the day, when the game was really on the line, he was able to rise to the level they needed.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his shooting for the series, 29%, 42%, 45%. I mean, it was okay, but I don't know. I just thought, when you look at some of the series and some of the games he put together in this postseason, I thought Indiana played him the best of just about anybody.
Yeah, I would agree.
Without question.
Nembhard was fantastic all series on him, as was Nesmith. And the Pacers' rotations were sharp. It was brilliant.
I have so much respect for the Pacers coming out of this series. And I say that as a Knicks fan, which pains me to say as a Knicks fan. So much respect for the Pacers. We have more to get to on the Pacers, the Haliburton injury, and more next. All right, one more segment with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. We'll put a bow on the NBA Finals and talk about the other big story of Sunday, which the NBA had to be thrilled with. Hey, let's have a huge NBA trade on Game 7 of the NBA. What are you doing? You couldn't wait till Monday or Tuesday? I mean, my God. All right, we'll get to that in a second, Kurt. On the Haliburton injury, is it a foregone conclusion he's lost for all of next year?
Recovery times have improved on that, but I would be surprised because this happened so late. I would be surprised if you see him next year.
And how does what does that mean for the Pacers off season now?
They've got to go get another point guard, with all due respect to TJ McConnell. They're going to have to find somebody on a short-term contract to fill in. Chris Paul's out there. They got to go find somebody. And then find a way to kind of regroup this thing in 2 years. But as you and I discussed briefly, this East is now even more wide open. The Pacers would have been the clear favorites going into next season. They're not anymore, and maybe it's the Knicks. Giannis Antetokounmpo looks, good staying with the Bucks, and they you can't throw them out now. All sorts of teams there. Orlando with their addition, they look like a team that could have a shot. It's going to be a wild East next year to see kind of who emerges from that pack.
Yeah, and I mean, you're talking about the Celtics. You're talking about the Pacers, both
Celtics
losing.
Aren't gonna be bad.
Both of those teams losing their stars, and the Knicks have to be sitting there going, "Hey, is there any reason we can't be in the NBA Finals next year and be the team that loses to whoever comes out of the West?" I mean,
there's one reason. They don't have a coach. They probably should fix that.
They don't need a coach. Who needs a coach? They just fired their great coach, and they didn't even have anybody. Well, don't get me started. Don't get me started, because we'll run out of time and we won't get to talk about the fact that on Sunday, on the day of Game 7, on the NBA's biggest day of the entire year, the Phoenix Suns said, hey, you know what? Let's announce that we're trading Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. First of all, before we even talk about the deal itself, from a league standpoint, how does this happen? This would never happen in the NFL. I don't even know if it happened in the NHL. I'd be surprised if it happened in baseball. How does this happen in the... Adam Silver's got to be pulling the 3 hairs on the side of his head out, which would be very painful, by the way. Yeah, I've done it. It's not fun on a bald head. How is this happening?
Hi, I'm Matt Ishbia. I'd like you to meet my team, the Phoenix Suns. Look, the league was not happy with the timing of this in the least, but the league gets a little bit of blame here. 7-game series bumps up to Sunday. The NBA draft is Wednesday. There's like no gap there. And you can say, hey, push it back to Monday or Tuesday, but what the NFL does brilliantly is it's turned the draft into a second season, and the NBA has never been close to that.
It's just unfathomable to me that on the day we're talking about the biggest game, of the season in the NBA, basically we spent half the day. I'm sitting at a bowling alley here in Las Vegas looking at my phone, and people are coming up to me. Not to talk about Game 7. No, they want to talk to me about Kevin Durant being traded to the Rockets for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 pick in this year's draft, and 5 second-round picks. All right, Kurt, what do you make of the deal?
I like that. I mean, if you like Houston, they pushed all their chips in. They clearly needed a half-court scoring option. It was evident in their loss to the Warriors in the playoffs. They need somebody they can go to in the half-court. Kevin Durant, who will be 37 next season, still a bucket getter, man. Still a walking bucket, 26 points a game last season. So there's risk involved with his age and his injury, and they're going to sign him to an extension. But if you want to jump the timeline, if you want to win now, they didn't give up that. I mean, Jalen Green is explosive and talented and wildly inefficient, and maybe he does. Maybe he gets past that, maybe he doesn't, but they can live without it for Kevin Durant. I thought it was a great trade for them. And for Phoenix, good job. I mean, I think that was as much as they were going to get. Frankly, that was as good a deal as they were going to get. And my big fear with them was that they were going to still try to win now and get a bunch of old players. Like, they were going to get win now guys. Getting the number 10 pick, getting a young Jalen Green, getting all those second rounders, which will get flipped around or whatever. They've got too many 2-3 wings right now. But they can start to retool this roster in a more both financially wise and just more balanced way than it was.
Is it the right place for Jalen Green for some place to get the most out of him?
That's a really good question. He's going to get more touches. He's going to get more opportunities. Will he? Look, there's not many more disciplined players in the league than Devin Booker. Like, can you learn from him in a way maybe you didn't on a young team and you didn't have? I mean, they had Fred VanVleet, but maybe he needs the new setting to kind of maximize the potential, because when he's good and the days he's on, holy cow, but it's just not consistent enough.
What does this mean for the rest of the trade market, free agency, Giannis, the different chips? With this one falling, what does it mean for the other guys that are out there potentially via trade, the draft? Try and give me some sense if you've had any chance to sort of decompress from the finals to this.
It was the first domino that had to fall before a bunch of other stuff could open up. And now those teams that didn't get him are going to look, hey, DeMar DeRozan's available. Is Jonathan Kuminga in a sign and trade? Teams that might have considered that, but were waiting to see what Durant did. Everybody was kind of waiting for that domino. Now a bunch of other stuff can start to move, and a lot of it will move by the draft. I still expect multiple trades on draft night. Any pick from, frankly, 3 on down, well, except for 10 now, I guess. 3 on down is available, and it's going to be interesting to see how much that moves.
If he's Durant, as we think Durant could still be, and what he's been at, various stages of his career, and can stay healthy, which is obviously a big question mark. Does it make them the challenger to the to the Thunder in the West?
I would still put them in the one of the categories just because Denver's going to be really good. And, if the Lakers get a center and then we could, on down the line. Like the West is still going to be absolutely stacked. But yes, this moves them into that tier and makes them a genuine threat. The only question I've got, losing Dylan Brooks, do they lose a little too much defense? Sengun's not a shot blocker, but Udoka gets these teams to defend, so we'll see.
I'd like to say we're done with you. I'd like to say, hey, have a great offseason. The draft is coming up, so I'm sure we'll be talking to you again at some point. Have a safe trip back out to the West Coast. You've been great throughout the entire season. Excellent job during the NBA Finals. Nice fancy suit. You can go put that thing away until next season. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, I do not wear a suit to Summer League, so yeah, we're going to be good with this for a while.
Welcome back to this Monday edition of the show. We go from Kurt Helin and his thoughts on the NBA Finals and the Kevin Durant trade to Houston and all the other NBA goodness. Maybe we'll have him back on Wednesday in his usual spot. To this guy, the one and only Sam Yarnell is here, ladies and gentlemen, in his glory. There he is. Look at him. Look at that face. Face only a mother can love. All right, Sam Yarnell. Let's talk about these NBA Finals. Hey, just look. I'm curious to know what your reaction was in the moment, and then sort of what transpired the rest of the way. It sort of played out exactly the way I thought it would with Haliburton hurt. You had that burst of energy, the adrenaline of, hey, come on, we could still do this. Then you get to halftime, and I remember I was texting with Kurt Helin during the game, and I said, this game doesn't even start until the third quarter, because Oklahoma City's going to go in at the half, say, all right, look, they're a wounded duck. We got to go out there and put this thing away in the third quarter. And in so many games in this series, really the third quarter has been the defining point throughout this series. And they went out in the third quarter, they put their stamp on it, and that was basically the game. But we'll get to the Haliburton stuff, but I want to get your overall thoughts on Oklahoma City as an NBA champion.
Yeah, so there are two things that can mutually be true, but I think that there's a large contingent of the sports media that seem to be making them two independent things, which is not what they are. Oklahoma City had a historic season. Right? Literally, you look at the things that they did, you look at the players that they had, and the awards that those players won. Historic. Hall of Fame, like we are talking of all the teams and seasons of all time, top 10, 100%, potentially top 5. Up there with the 95, 96, 96, 97 Bulls. And there are a lot of metrics to back that up. Here's the thing. That Tyrese Haliburton injury is what won Oklahoma City the title. And I don't think it's particularly close. Now, that said, in the other 162 plus, however, or 81 or 82 plus, however many playoff games they played, I think the total was 94 or something. Yeah, they were great. They were historically good. But game 95 is what it came down to. And quite frankly, they did not play good basketball in game 7 of the NBA Finals, which is absolutely wild and ridiculous to me. But the Thunder did not play a good basketball game cohesively. Even during the time that Haliburton was on the court, right? Those 7.5 minutes, he was dominant.
Absolutely.
The Pacers were everywhere. The Pacers had the Thunder wrapped around their little finger. The Thunder had one comeback already before the Haliburton injury, and then the Pacers pulled away again. It was crazy. And then obviously the entire song changes. Like he goes down and everyone immediately knows that's it for Indiana, right? I think there were a lot of people speculating like, hey, maybe they'll be able to cover this 9 still. But Obi Toppin said it best after the game, right? That team was in no shape to play a basketball game after that happened. Nobody would have been. And I think the final score only being decided by 12 points tells you a lot about maybe how it affected the Oklahoma City Thunder players as well. Listen, at the end of the day, it'll go down as a historic season for the Oklahoma City Thunder team. They are a historically good team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had, again, this is a discussion for a month from now, but where does this rank in terms of individual all-time seasons? It's pretty high up the list. And at the end of the day, they shouldn't have won the NBA championship because they got outplayed during this game for, I think you can comfortably say 36 minutes. That third quarter did make all the difference. You're right, Jason. But the other 3 quarters, the Indiana Pacers pretty much held the Thunder at bay at worst without their best player. So, hats off to Oklahoma City. Great season, but they played a horrible Game 7.
It's the defining moment of the entire season when Haliburton goes down. There's no getting around that. We can talk all we want about everything else that happens in that game. The defining moment of the NBA season happens when Tyrese Haliburton goes down with that injury. And by the way, we had Kurt Helin on the show last Wednesday, and we spent a significant amount of time on the show last Wednesday discussing that very scenario, because with a calf strain comes the possibility of popping your Achilles. And the moment he went down, we all knew exactly what had happened. There wasn't any shadow of a doubt as to what had occurred in that situation. So hats off to Oklahoma City. I think everything you said, I think you summed it up beautifully. 2 things can be true. Historically great season, but ... And I agree with just about everything you said in the ... Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was 8 of 27 from the field in the defining game of this series. Great, he had 12 assists. He was a facilitator. He was 8 of 27 from the field. Your MVP was 8 of 27 from the field in Game 7 of this series. I mean, I need not say anything else. And Jalen Williams was okay in the second half. He was better in the second half. He wasn't very good in the first half. Where it gets really interesting for me, Sam, is the Eastern Conference next year. Literally anybody could come out of it, because the Celtics aren't going to have Jason Tatum. Now the Pacers aren't going to have Tyrese Haliburton. Kevin Durant's decided to stay in the West. And if you're a team in the East right now, anybody 1 through 6 or 7 has to feel like they have a shot to come out of the East next year. If you're the Pistons right now, you've got to be thinking, why not us? If you're the Knicks, you're certainly thinking, why not us? If you're the Cavaliers next year, if we're healthy, why not us? If you're the Bucks, you're probably saying, we're hanging on to Giannis. We're not trading him. Convince him to stay. Why not us?
Right, so that's the big difference maker, right? To me in the Eastern Conference is, where does Giannis land? And it feels like the Eastern Conference is so wide open that over the last week and a half, there's been a total shift in the Giannis narrative to now, maybe he is going to stay with the Bucks. After all, maybe he's not going to leave. Well, that's a crazy development, especially for a team that's about to go a year without Damian Lillard, regardless. The Eastern Conference next year is going to be very interesting to watch. And hey, here come the Wizards. Can I interest you in some Washington Wizards stuff?
No, you can't. You cannot. Not at plus 50,000. There you go. Plus 50,000 if you want them. 500 to 1. Go and jump on that. You can get the Cavaliers, by the way, right now to win the East at plus 270. The Knicks at 3 to 1. The Magic at plus 440. The Celtics at plus 450. The Sixers at plus 1100. The Pacers all the way down at 14 to 1, which tells you how significant they think that Haliburton injury is, by the way.
Well, and the thing is, and I'll be quick on this, but the Haliburton thing is unique because in the past when we've seen guys have this injury, they had already completed something, right? Durant had a ring. Tatum has a ring, right? Haliburton was on the way up.
It's a devastating injury for that organization. But they went for it, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. No problem with him going for it, no problem with the organization. Baseball's next. All right, let's take this baby to segment 4, coming up in 10 minutes. Interesting weekend in golf. Developments at the Travelers Championship could have an impact on the Ryder Cup. Get to that. Plus, how professional athletes should handle a defeat. Talk about that too. All right, Sam Yarnell, you have been on this for a few weeks now, so I give you credit. The Cal Raleigh season that we've seen so far. Look, we could talk about Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani every day on the show if we wanted to, and just sit and spend, minutes, and segments on those guys. But we have not spent nearly enough time talking about what Cal Raleigh is doing in this Mariners lineup this season. Now with 31 home runs on the season after his weekend in Chicago against the Cubs, hitting a bunch of home runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday against Chicago. And look, he's not just hitting for power. He's hitting for a decent average. He's in the 270s. I think he's in like the mid to high 270s for a batting average. He's got a ton of RBIs. He's certainly injecting himself. And I haven't even looked at it. I'm going to look at it while we're doing this conversation now. I haven't even looked at where he is as far as the MVP odds is concerned.
He's
second. There you go.
Yesterday.
He's 6-1 right now. He's second.
Oh my gosh.
Second best. Yeah, you can get him at 6-1 right now. And then Bobby Witt is at plus 9,500. Of course, Aaron Judge leads the way at minus 2,400. Yes. Yeah, that is the number on Aaron Judge.
It was minus 35. That's dangerous. It was minus 3,500 yesterday, and it was minus 20,000 a week ago. This is getting very interesting very quickly, folks.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to get much lower than that, though. I mean, how much longer is the slide for Judge going to go? Not much more. So I don't think it's going to go much more. But if you're interested in something else, it would be Cal Raleigh, I think, at plus 600. I wouldn't have an issue with that. But what a season he's having at the catcher position. The only thing that works against him, though, is the fact that he plays at the catcher spot. And you wonder if the wear and tear at that position as we continue to go through the season starts to take its toll on him and the numbers start to come back to earth a little bit. Because right now he's on a pace for 66 home runs and like 146 runs driven in, Sam. And if he puts up those kind of numbers and the Mariners are a playoff team, I don't know how he isn't the MVP.
Yeah, as a catcher who's also a switch hitter. Like that is, he's done so many things this year that just go swept under the rug because we love talking about this one really tall guy in New York. But he's done so many historical things this year with a bat in his hands. I believe he was the first player ever to have multiple games in a season with a home run from each side of the plate. Ridiculous statistic. Who does that? Only Cal Raleigh. So a couple of things on this. I think the Mariners, to your point about the durability, just working from the back to the front, the Mariners have done a very good job this year splitting him between catcher and DH. And I think when getting into inside baseball around it, the Mariners actually have one of, if not the best catching prospect in baseball in Harry Ford, who will be up sooner rather than later. And when he can catch games for Cal Raleigh to DH, that offense becomes even more potent because that is, again, one of the best catching prospects in baseball today, right up there with the Samuel Basallos of the Baltimore Orioles. But I think that they've done a good job delegating the workload between DH and catcher. What I will say about that is Cal Raleigh has actually struggled massively as a DH. He's had a ton of success hitting as a catcher, but he does not have that same success as a DH. So if they DH him more down the stretch, that's definitely something to keep an eye on, to your point, Jason. Otherwise, with this Mariners team, right? I think that realistically, when we talk about what they have to do for Cal Raleigh to win an MVP, because a team's always got to do something for a player to win an MVP.
Absolutely.
I don't know if they have to win that division.
No, they got to make the playoffs, though. I think they got to make the playoffs. They got to be a wild card team.
But I think as a wild card team,
yes,
if Cal Raleigh hits 55 to 60 bombs and drives in 120 to 130 runs,
you don't think he has to lead the league? You don't think he has to lead the league in home runs?
I do, and I think 55 to 60 gets it done this year.
Yeah, I think Aaron Judge has probably got another burst in him. I think it's going to take 60. And if he breaks the number, if he breaks Aaron Judge's number, I think regardless of whether he makes the postseason, I think he's got to be the MVP. I think he's got to be the MVP.
Oh, yeah. If he hits whatever the 63 or whatever.
Yeah, if he hits 63.
Yeah, 100%. I think
right now they're the last wild card for people who are wondering. They're 39 and 37. They're the last wild card.
There's a case to be made that his MVP vote should be solidified the second he hits his 49th homer and breaks the single season record for homers by a catcher in a season, set merely 4 years ago by Salvador Perez, who got MVP votes that season. What I do want to say about all of this, though, and I do think a greater part of the Cal Raleigh conversation in 2025 is we are seeing a complete transformation of the catcher position at the major league level. Look across the board, and you have got some very dynamic catchers aging young to old and everywhere in between, competitive to non-competitive. Cal Raleigh, Will Smith, obviously at the top. Will Smith is in like the top 5 in OPS in the National League. You've got a ton of young guys. Drake Baldwin leading the way for National League Rookie of the Year. I mean, if it weren't for this Mizorowski kid who came on out of nowhere.
My goodness.
Augustine Ramirez, another huge one. The catcher position has completely been changed in the year 2025, and it's truly amazing to see because they were forgotten for a very long time.
Paul who? This kid from Milwaukee's got everybody talking. The flavor of the week. Livy who? It's all about what's going on in Milwaukee right now. Team's scoring runs. They got this hot young pitcher. We're coming back. We didn't get to Rafi Devers. It's all right. He got enough time on the show last week. Sports Wrap continues. And before we get to the golf, which I promise we'll get to in just a second, I want to just wrap the conversation we were having on Cal Raleigh, Sam. Because I was so enamored with what you were saying that I didn't get to make the point I wanted to make. Which is, remember when the season started and the Yankees were hitting all these home runs, getting all these hits, and everybody was losing their minds over torpedo bats? It's funny, nobody's talking about torpedo bats. You know who uses a torpedo bat? Cal Raleigh uses a torpedo bat. When he bats from the left side, he uses a torpedo bat. And a lot of his at-bats come from the left side. So I don't want to hear about your stupid torpedo bats, especially when the Yankees don't score a run for 27 innings against the stupid Los Angeles Angels.
Right. Yeah, that's the time when we needed to stop talking about torpedo bats. Listen, I get that like the Brewers pitching staff started cold and the Yankees had that great series against the Brewers and scored 27 runs in that one game. And we all, myself included, came on and wanted to say, oh, well, they should be illegal. I mean, you're giving somebody a competitive advantage. Yeah, turns out you're not. I mean, Jazz Chisholm was the one who everyone was like, this guy's going off. He can't stop hitting the ball out of the yard. He proceeded to hit like 92 over the next month and then got injured. So I think the whole torpedo bat discussion kind of went out the window. And yeah, it's great for Cal Raleigh. It's great for the Yankees. It's great for, oh God, I forget the guy's name who works in Miami now. And it really sucks that Aaron Lenhart or something. Shout out to Lenny. Because that guy, that guy cashed in on this whole operation.
Yes, he did.
So happy that everyone's using them, but can we stop talking about them, please?
Now we certainly can. Let's talk about the weekend in golf, Sam, because it was an interesting one. The Travelers Championship, for as much as people like to go crazy and get nuts about the Travelers Championship and the scoring and this and that, the scoring was down this year. You know what? Turns out all you need is a little weather, a little bit of wind, and all of a sudden the course plays a little more difficult. And that happened at the Travelers, where this year the winning score, not as high as it has been in past years. And Keegan Bradley takes it away from Tommy Fleetwood. Well, some people are going to want to say he choked it away. Sam is trying to.
Sorry, I'm just doing my Tommy Fleetwood impression live on the air.
Two
bogeys in the last 3 holes.
He did have 2 bogeys in the last 3 holes. I will say this, though. The bogey on 18, it did look like his putt was a perfect putt and it hit a ball mark and then just jumped right on him. It did look like a good putt. I mean, I've seen a million angles of it and looked at it 100 times over. It looked like the same putt Keegan Bradley hit. It just looked like his hit a ball mark and Keegan's stayed dead straight. And Tommy Fleetwood winds. Now, look, there is something to be said for the fact Tommy Fleetwood is Lee Westwood. Right? I mean, that is essentially what he is. He's a great golfer, top 20 golfer in the world. He's ranked like 16th or 17th in the world. Yet he's never won a PGA Tour event. I don't know how the world golf rankings can work that way, that you've never won a single PGA Tour event, yet you are ranked number 17 in the world, but it does. Tommy Fleetwood, I feel for him because that's a tough way to not win your first event on the PGA Tour. hats off to Keegan Bradley, who before the season started was picked to be the Ryder Cup captain. And a lot of times you get picked to be the Ryder Cup captain because you're not really good enough to be the star on the team anymore and be on the actual squad, but you're good enough to still be relevant in golf and be a part of it. Well, now he's gone out there. He's ranked 7th in the world, and now he's going to be able to make the argument to be a playing captain, the first since Arnold Palmer did it in 1962. And now there's actually some people saying he should bring in Tiger Woods to be his assistant to sort of run things for him. Because if you're a playing captain, do you really want to have to worry about setting your rosters and who's playing every day and stuff like that? Golf is mentally taxing enough. That remains to be seen. But I want to say this about Tommy Fleetwood, and then I'll hand it off to you for a couple minutes here, Sam. Hats off to him. Because in a world that we live in where Rory McIlroy doesn't want to talk to the media, and he just can't stand talking to the media when he sucks it up in the final round of an event and decides to march off to his car and go drive away without talking to the press, Tommy Fleetwood answered every question yesterday. And that's what you're supposed to do. This respectful back and forth between the media. Because I think the media felt for Tommy Fleetwood too yesterday, Sam.
Yeah, how can you not? I mean,
gutted.
Anyone who plays golf,
like
it's tough to watch. I will say to the ball mark thing, though, listen, man, if I have the wherewithal to be lining up a putt at my local Muni, and I can take the divot repair tool out of my pocket and see a divot in my line or a ball mark in my line, I can go fix it. So why the heck can't you on the PGA Tour playing for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars?
Millions.
Why can't you do the same thing, brother? So that is my thoughts on the whole ball mark. I saw a lot of people in the golf world saying that, and I was like, well, that was avoidable. The Ryder Cup thing is very interesting to me.
Yes.
Because he is right on the cusp of being like that 12th best American when you think about the, you've got the like 4 or 5 guys who are going to be on the team.
Yep.
And then it gets a little more wide open. And I think the JJ Spawn conversation is interesting after his performance at the US Open. I think he did pretty well at the Travelers, right? He made the
Finished
cut.
really strong, 66-63 on Saturday and Sunday.
So like
T14.
The discussion over the next 3 months, not even 2.5 months, is going to be completely kind of based around these middling guys who we don't think of as like the world beaters, but are going to have a chance to make a huge difference on one of the biggest stages in golf, Jason.
Ben Griffin, T14 as well, continues to play solid golf. Bradley, by the way, $3.6 million for Bradley, and don't cry too much for Tommy Fleetwood. Gets $1.7 million in that second place finish. Odds and ends. College World Series. We'll talk about it next. Just about time to put the reps on this baby for a Monday. On tomorrow's show, we'll figure it out. How's that for locking you in for tomorrow's show? I guarantee there'll be something you want to tune in to watch us talk about tomorrow. It's all about baseball now, baby. That's it. It's nothing else to talk about, Sam. We're down to the. It's it. It's baseball time. We'll get to it on tomorrow's show. I'm sure we'll find something to talk about. Maybe let's just take like 2 weeks off. Can we do that? Can we just take a couple weeks off and just say shut it down? All right. So everybody else does. I'm the only person that doesn't for some inexplicable reason. Some reminders. First of all, SportsWrap with Jason Page, the podcast. If you have not checked out SportsWrap with Jason Page, the podcast, go and do so. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, and more. Go and subscribe today. Commercial free, Monday through Friday on your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio version only of this show. If you have not watched us on Spotify or YouTube, you can actually watch the show outside of all the TV affiliates you're watching us on now, which we love you guys. Sometimes people need other ways to watch the show. Sometimes we get preempted. There might be a sports event on. You can watch this show on Spotify Monday through Friday, commercial free. You can also watch the show on our YouTube channel, the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. YouTube is great for that. Commercial free, as I said, Monday through Friday, available early in the afternoon Eastern time. Make sure to check that out. Also, SportsWrap Shorts. If you have not seen those, available on our YouTube channel, SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Subscribe today, like, follow, all of that good stuff. All right, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. It is not going to be the end of Chip Cary's career, despite the slip-up he had on the air during a Cardinals broadcast this weekend. If you have not heard it, he was promoting Disability Pride Night. Didn't know it was a thing. Disability Pride Night for the St. Louis Cardinals, and this happened. Cue it up, Maestro.
Disability Pride Night is Thursday, July 10th, and with a theme ticket, fans take home a Cardinals cap featuring the Disability Pride flag and Cardinals in Braille. Details at cardinals.com/theme.
Lead that one.
Oh boy, did they ever. The 31 seconds of silence that followed Chip Cary's read there on Disability Pride Night has not gone unnoticed by many. He is not going to be suspended. He is not going to lose his job, and he shouldn't lose his job. As somebody who's done this for 30 years, as somebody who has read a million scripts in his life over 30 years, these things happen. And I say this as an openly gay man. There is no reason to fire Chip Caray for this. I don't want to hear people say, well, if the word came out of his mouth, it means it must be in his head, it must be in his lexicon, it must be something he says all the time. No, sometimes you can mistake the word flag for the word. Don't say it, Sam. You definitely can't say it, Sam. Don't you do it. I have no problem with Chip Caray. Let him keep his job. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Huh. That's interesting. I had the opposite reaction.
What?
Yeah, no, this isn't a mistake. So first of all, let's address the elephant in the room. What the hell is going on in broadcast booths in the state of Missouri? I mean, my God. It's like every single broadcast booth at a baseball stadium in the state of Missouri. There's something going on. Seriously, though.
We love you, Tom Brenneman.
Head scratcher. I don't think that, I mean, I think there's quite literally precedent here for you to not keep your job. I think it's, do I think that he will? Yes. Why do I think he will? Pretty simple. The guy's last name, not that hard to figure out. Listen, are the Careys, because now there are a bazillion of them, and one of them had a job with the Athletics, but I don't know if he still has that job with the Athletics. There are two sons in baseball, and I think they're twins. Listen, the Careys are going to be behind a microphone in baseball for a bazillion years, whether we like it or not, whether they deserve to be or not. There's nothing anyone will really do about it. No repercussions will come to this man because of the long-standing history that his family has in Major League Baseball. But should they? Yes, because they have fallen down on other people who have done the exact same thing.
We got to go, but you've got 15 seconds if you want to wax poetic about LSU and Coastal Carolina.
We want to talk about the games because they were kind of boring. Here's the thing that you need to know. The Kevin Schnall ejection is what everyone's talking about. And then I'm going to have another problem with the NCAA. It became pretty apparent after the game that the guy who leads all of the NCAA baseball umpires is retiring after this season, and the umpires knew that, and no one else knew that. Seems like he may have had a shorter leash than usual for this one. Anyone who plays baseball knows you don't get tossed over that. Completely ridiculous. Disappointed in the NCAA.
You know who I want to have on this week? Maybe we'll have Dale Scott on the show, former MLB umpire. Some umpiring issues we got to talk about. That does it for us. We'll see you tomorrow.